And I have great pleasure of asking my wonderful colleague and friend, Harris Eyre, the lead of the Brain Capital Alliance, to take us through the concept of brain capital industrial strategy that we are launching today with this event. So, Harris, the floor is yours.
All right, I'm just waiting for the clicker thingy for the slides, but thank you very much, Pawal. Thank you to the sponsors and the co-organizers and for all of you today for dedicating your time to this important cause. Okay, today is a day of transformation. We want to really think about a new world. And so with that said, I want to propose to you that we're going to launch today a new multi-trillion-dollar industry. We're going to try to get at improving mental and brain health across the lifespan using industrial innovation strategy, public-private approaches to really fueling new products and services that aren't just for people with means, but for everyone. So this is an equity-focused industrial strategy. So you can see on the slide here, this is a paper we published on Thursday through the Rice University Baker Institute for Public Policy. Many of you in the audience are co-authors on the paper, or you were mentioned in the paper, like Baycrest Bill. And so we were delighted to have so many luminaries involved in this research. So if you're interested, happy to share the URL with you so you can see it further. Brain capital, as Pawal mentioned, is this special economic asset that we are advancing. Brain capital is something that we've developed ourselves and are pushing forward with a transdisciplinary team of economists and neuroscientists and business people and policy strategists and ethicists, et cetera, et cetera. Brain capital puts a premium on brain health across the lifespan from little kids to older adults, and it puts a premium on brain skills, which are skills critical to the modern economy: creativity, adaptability, resilience. So brain capital, we want to, nation states to basically think of brain capital as important as GDP, as important as road and bridge infrastructure, as important as healthy forests and healthy oceans. So that's the level upon which we're trying to frame brain capital. We think that brain capital is under siege. We all know that brain health and mental health issues are costing trillions to the global economy every year, right? And it's increasing. It's probably now around $3 trillion of lost economic productivity every year. And of course, the human cost as well are significant. So, and whatever we're doing now isn't really making a dent in it, right? We can see the trends increasing. Suicide rates, depression, anxiety, Alzheimer's disease is all going up. So it's under siege, and this comes at a time when our brains are the most important asset, really, of society, right? And even more now with generative AI that's come on board with ChatGPT, et cetera. We've gone past a knowledge economy. We thought that we were in a knowledge economy before, right? But now with ChatGPT, you know, many of my skills are kind of being undermined and outdone. So we're in a brain economy now. We're in an intensive knowledge economy, which we call a brain economy. And so all of the issues that we see with brain capital being under siege, you can see here on the right, from mental health and neurological issues. And there, of course, this means education disruption and lower productivity. Brain and mind activities are not coordinated across government. You can see here the pieces of the puzzle. We all know that different bureaucrats or ministers are responsible for these different pieces. They all feed into our brain, right? And they influence our brain, whether it's, you know, relevance to labor markets and workforce productivity and wage rates, child and youth issues. AI policy is a big deal now, of course. And it's all dealt with in a disparate way. So what we want to do is bring these puzzle pieces together into a more coherent governance framework for countries, for provinces, and for states. So how do we do that? We should use policy, but we should really, I think, use the lens of industrial innovation policy, right? Because if we can use industrial innovation policy, it's not just policy, it's also the private sector coming together. And half of you are probably from the public sector and half of you from the private sector. So today, let's have this alchemy that we want in this beautiful space, and let's talk about this and brainstorm about how do we see this vision come to life. Here are the 7 parts of this brain capital industrial strategy that I've mentioned. I'm going to walk through them quickly now. First of all, we need to define our brain capital technologies. That's critical. Yesterday, we talked a lot about youth. We're going to talk more about youth today, Alzheimer's disease. I want to mention early childhood brain development as being really important. So let's have a little bit more emphasis on early childhood brain development today. We have some folks that have flown in from Australia that are doing wonderful things from my home state of Australia, Queensland. So let's celebrate that. So really what we're thinking about with brain capital technologies is across the lifespan. It's mental, it's neurological health, but it's also things like technologies that fuel creativity, that are good for workers, good for entrepreneurs. The analogy here, of course, if we look at this, you could say, like, how does this make sense? How can you just say that brain capital technology is just putting a big circle around all these disparate things? But that's what you do with space tech. Space tech is disparate. It's rocket engines through to satellites. But we put it under the space tech umbrella, and that means something, it means something to the media. Space tech means something to the government, and it means something to private industry as well, right? So the space tech analogy, I think, is useful to us in the brain capital technology field. Of course, the built environment is important, really important. We're in a beautiful built environment now. HKS is one of the supporters of today. In architecture, we have, where's Tom from Wexford, is the expert in innovation districts. We're going to talk about this. Technologies alone won't solve the world's problems, right? We need to embed and integrate technologies into existing work streams and infrastructures like schools and hospitals. And we also need to think about parks and recreational spaces too. So let's not forget the built environment. Financial innovation is critical as well. We need to think really about the smorgasbord of financial innovations, particularly public-private partnerships. It's exciting that today New Fund Capital and the Fundamental Foundation will launch the first Brain Capital Venture Capital Fund. So you'll hear from the French later today. This is the first manifestation of this industrial strategy, which is wonderful. So I look forward to seeing what you think about their remarks. We need, of course, how would we rally a multi-trillion-dollar industry from now? We have some mental health entrepreneurs and executives and people that work in pharma and devices and stuff, but we need a whole workforce, right? We need hundreds of thousands of people working in this new industry. So we need curriculum in schools and universities and technical colleges. We need lifelong learning. How do we help people to go from jobs that will probably be disrupted by AI? Let's get them into our new industry. Let's get them developing, smart devices and things that are good for our brains or different types of stimulators for the brain. So this is where we're rallying the industrial strategy, and we need the right kind of attributes. So we need to frame up our schools and our education system and our universities to be appropriate. Missions will be critical. We have a lot of representatives from the UK here. The UK government is very interested in mission economy, setting missions like the Apollo mission to the moon. What could we do like an Apollo mission for different parts of brain capital? Could we do an Apollo mission for dyslexia? We have some dyslexia experts here that are doing this. Could we do an Apollo mission for reducing depression by 10% in 10 years in, Oklahoma or something like that? We need to think about tangible missions that we could achieve that will push things forward. These missions serve to really catalyze, people's focus, and it gets the public sector and the private sector to work together. I think that COOF is a good example of a mission in California to provide good quality digital mental health care to kids in schools in California. Coordinating within government is critical as well. You all can think about what does this mean in your jurisdiction, in your state, in your country. In the US, we really think that the United States government needs to lead this. So we think about the role of OSTP, the role of the Office of the President of the United States, the role of DHHS. You can imagine this is like a new governance structure that we're suggesting. So we need to think about, do we need a secretariat and an advisory board within inside of high offices as well? So let's talk about that and get your feedback. There's a lot of politicians here today that you can advise us on exactly what you want to see with this model, so we can make a playbook that we can give to people so they can do this around the world. It's important that we don't just, again, think about this industrial strategy that's going to solve all of our problems, right? Because we know that it won't. We need to wrap it within a broader supportive policy package. This is almost like a post-industrial strategy for any of the policy wonks in the room. So we've published a bunch of things around brain capital and sustainability, food and brain, et cetera, et cetera. These are all like 60-page documents, so anyone wants to talk about them, happy to, and share the URLs with you. One of the things will be that David Fagman, the Chancellor and Dean of the UC Law School, will be talking about is brain capital in legal policy. And Emily Murphy's an expert as well, wherever Emily is in the room, so thank you for being here. So what could this strategy mean to you? What could it mean to your organization? What can your organization do to propel this? What could your state, your city, your country do to propel this forward? And will you please join our coalition of the willing, because this is a big, bold idea. I think you can see from today that we're doing it, we're making progress, but we need more help. So would love to meet anyone that wants to, put their shoulder to the wheel on this, and we can hopefully change the world, or at least change it in the right direction, move it in the right direction. So thank you very much.